Hello and welcome to another episode of The Art of Kicking Ass Elegantly TV. I'm your host, Michelle Hext. Today I want to talk to you about finding the thing that fires you up to really go for it in your business. As you know, training takes up a big part of my life. I'm very much about, my martial arts and staying physical. And I think of myself as an athlete. I don't think of myself as somebody who exercises. I've always considered myself an athlete. Back in the day, I was a taekwondo competitor, so I still had that mindset and I'll never let it go. And so I'm going to relate this whole average thing to that, and then we'll make it about business. You'll see, just trust me, I'm taking it somewhere that will make sense to you. But recently, I lost my training mojo a bit, and that's pretty bad for me. I mean, I never need to be pushed to train. I never need to be motivated. It's always just there, and I always just do it. But I'd been training to get myself to Thailand after my hip surgery, and I think I've told this story before, but, I got over there, and the whole goal, the whole purpose of my training leading up to that was to get me to the point where I landed in Thailand with a body I could rely on and I could train the house down. And that happened. I got there and I'd had a lot of setbacks with my back after my hip surgery, and so I wasn't going over there as fit and ripped as I would have liked. But, I changed my, I adapted the goal along the way, and we landed on that, and I was pretty happy. And I got there, and I think it was maybe day 3, I was into training and I was kicking the pads and just having an absolute ball. But in the middle of it, it's dawned on me that, well, this is the goal, so what next? This is the goal. I've kind of reached the goal, and I need to always have something to strive towards. And so, I struggled with that because it was like, well, what's it going to be? It's not going to be Muay Thai. I train in it when I'm in Thailand because it's much easier for me to do that than to fly to Korea and train in Taekwondo a couple of times a year. That just doesn't happen. So it's like, well, it's not going to be Muay Thai. I love the training, but it's not going to be my new sport or anything like that. Anyway, I got myself into a bit of a tears, and I came back and spoke to my coach and said, my training coach, and said, I need a goal. I need a bigger goal. And so, long story short, I went through a few different things, and what we decided that we were going to set some training or some protocols and some figures that I needed to aim towards. And Jason, my trainer, took me through a series of tests. And so the idea was we'd test, and then after 4 weeks or whatever, we'd retest again. So I was all prepared. I was very excited, and he mapped out the cones, and they were all perfectly measured out because it was all very sciencey, and I loved that. And he had his little computer there so he could plug all of my stats into the figure and into the computer and hold them up against other people. Well, pretty much every goddamn test I did, it came back average. And it was just like, ugh, I've never been average at anything, in the last, for as long as I can remember, But what it made me see was, well, it fired me up to start with. It was just like, right, give me another month. Give me a month. Tell me what training drills I need to do. Give me a month. I'm going to smash it. I'm going to be so above average that it's not even going to be funny. And so for me, straight away, I had my goal, and it fired me up, and I was ready to take things to the next level. And so there's excitement back in that sort of training for me. And so how we can relate that back to business, and about, average, as female entrepreneurs, none of us want to be average, do we? None of us want to be average. I mean, no. So what we want to do is set ourselves apart from our competition, even if we even consider competition. And even, me, I don't typically consider competition so much. For me, my strongest competition is always myself, and I'm always striving to be better. But I'm thinking, I want to be outstanding and remarkable. I don't just want to be average or get by. And so how do I make this apply in my business? It's taking the extra step. It's taking the extra care to do things properly. So today, I'll be the first to admit, recently with my blog, I haven't taken the time to go and get my hair done and my makeup done, and I've just kind of made do with doing it myself. But I don't enjoy it. I don't feel as on. as when I go and have those things taken care of and I come here and I put my best foot forward. So for me, you know, my videos were getting pretty average, I thought, in terms of, you know, maybe the content was okay, but again, it wasn't always wasn't my best. Some of it wasn't my best work. And so for me, it was like, do you want your videos to be average? Hell no. So I got my ass to the makeup lady, had my hair done and mapped out the videos for today and really put a lot of thought and energy into them. And so for me, that's my way of not being average there. There are so many elements within our businesses where we can be average if we let ourselves slip into that. You know, the photos that I had on my website, oh my God, you know, I'm preaching this to people. You must have professional photos taken. You must do this, you must do that. And my photos were not great. You know, they were make do because I can't stand to be in front of a camera. I just don't like it. So I avoided it. And it was just like, hang on a minute. You're telling these women that they need to do it. So get your ass into gear and get a photographer there. And I did that and it feels amazing. My photos get noticed and it really feels on brand for me. They're not average. So have a look at where you are in your business right now and ask yourself, you know, where am I letting myself be average? And then from there, you know, it's time to really raise the bar and make sure that you're fitting into the not even above average. Whatever the step is above that, that's where you want to be aiming towards. That's your job this week. Make sure that you really do a bit of an audit onto where things are, you know, sliding into average and make sure that you knock them out of the ballpark. Have an awesome week.